Some of them are ask me where they get it from. Some of them ask me where they get it from. You know, two them don't know it's from creation. You know, two them don't know it's from creation. When them talk bam bam de la. So this a bam bam de la. So this a bam 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 de la. So this a bam bam de la. There is so much. And never to be known. So the money they are not common. And DJ is my location. I come to know it's so hard nation. What a good song. I told you to get lost the power. I can't put it in the source. Yes,
You out. You wouldn't wear a tie. Staring at some pictures by yourself.
Well, the UK is part of this genocide and it still supplies parts for the planes, etc., which bomb and kill people in Gaza.
The UK is a part of this genocide in many ways. Firstly, arms supply. Secondly, implicit silence from the people. Thirdly, complicity from the politicians and their unwillingness to support the Palestinian state and their willingness to support the Zionist state, which is terrorism.
And also, Britain has many traditions. Britain has a terrible tradition of colonialisation, but Britain also has a great tradition of humanitarianism, of actually standing up for justice and peace where there is none. And I think we're part of that tradition. We're standing up for things that need to be said. We need to speak truth to power. And we need to stand up to people who are bombarded by a horror show of slaughter, murder, not killings, murder, of innocent people, innocent children, innocent families, and we need to stand up against this sort of tyranny that different governments feel it's okay to do as long as it benefits them in some sort of geopolitical way.
I've seen some horrific things and it just reminds me of slavery. What's happened before is happening now, so that's what...
Is hip-hop cancer or culture? Half of hip-hop history, our children have been indoctrinated with musical content that's sexually Is hip-hop cancer or culture? Half of hip-hop history, our children have been indoctrinated with musical content that sexually objectifies and denigrates black women, that pushes European materialism and conspicuous consumption, that glamorizes, glorifies, and promotes black-on-black crime, mass incarceration, and that has painted a public image of black men that has helped society, government, police, and white power structure to destroy not only the image, but the lives of black men. Anything that is against the best interests of black people needs to be redeemed or destroyed. Fix hip-hop. Make it what it should be or throw it into the ash can of African history.
Shut up, just shut up, shut up, 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 just shut up, 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 shut up.
Anybody else who sees it. ICE? Huh? Are you guys with ICE?
Ice?
Yeah.
What's ice?
What do you mean what's ICE? I just saw you arrest someone.
Arrest nobody.
No? That guy that was in handcuffs?
He's not arrested.
He wasn't, so,
Not ice.
not ICE? Okay, you guys are just like little bounty hunters?
No.
Alright. So what, you guys are just going around handcuffing people? Hey, everyone, check him out. Jacob. L Street right here. What are you guys doing?
None of your business. That's
None of my business?
Yeah.
I pay taxes. My fucking business.
I pay taxes.
Exactly. Probably not more than me.
I'm pretty sure I do.
Oh, yeah? So you work with ICE?
What about what I work with?
Okay.
You
Alright.
just assume I work with ice.
So what?
I don't. You're crazy. I'm not.
I just saw you racial profile that kid. Handcuff him.
So World War is terrible. Racial profile.
First I saw the headed man, the button and cross says I was a boy back then. The white supremacists, they terrorized me. They laced my father to a poplar tree. So yes, I took the violence and lived by the sword. Was my way until I found my Lord. Malcolm X, Geronimo, I'm a freedom fighter, Nelson Mandela, Yasser Arafat, James Connolly. Wherever there's injustice, will always be me. Stood against their invasion, apartheid's ethnic cleansing. Where the olive branch, it sways in the breeze. I put down my gun and I offered peace. So from the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free. I'm Malcolm X, Geronimo, I'm a freedom fighter, Nelson Mandela, Yasser Arafat, James Connolly. I'm a river, there's injustice, will always be me. I'm a freedom fighter, don't be confused. Don't call me a terrorist because I refuse to see my people oppressed and displaced because of their color, their culture, the race. I will not be silenced, will not be contained while people suffer for another man's gain. With my comrades, I rebelled. I was executed in conmen and jail. But a martyr I became. I lit the fire, I filled the flame. For a people struggle for liberation, free their country from foreign occupation. I'm Malcolm X, Geronimo, Yasser Arafat, Barabbas, Che Guevara, Nelson Mandela, William Wallace, James Connolly. I'm a river, there's injustice, will always be me. You'll always have me. You will always find me. Thank you very much, Chief.
Right then. We'll start again. I've got some technicals. There's always some technicals. One sec. Right then. We'll start again. I need a spark. I need that in-house spark. Apply within. What do you expect, eh? Professional streamer in that. Who's with us? Kit Kats. Nice to see you. Morning, everybody. Sound, aye. I think we've got it. Dave Swift, good morning to you. Okay. Where to begin? Oh, for fuck. We've been plunged into darkness. I tell you what. That was Kevin Gore that we started with there, who was at the James Connolly. It was the 39th James Connolly celebration. Centenary, which was a great evening. I'm going to return to. Well, I'll do this now because I need to sort this light out. I'm going to go to Jim Slavin's part of Jim's speech. It was a few speeches last night. It was really good. I'm going to cut to Jim just now. You can enjoy what Jim had to say. In fact, no. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut to Danny Taylor, who was a speaker from on behalf of the Birmingham refuse workers union. So he's a brilliant speaker. I'm going to put him on just now, and I'll return, and then we'll address the more local issues. Who's cheap? I'll cheap you the now, pal. Right, I'll be back in a moment. This is a really good speech by Danny Taylor that I'm going to put on just now from last night.
Okay, we're now going to have the first speaker. As I say, the speakers tonight represent Connolly's politics and practice. And the first speaker is going to speak about the current, which people might have seen on the news today actually as well, the Birmingham bin strike. They're obviously in Edinburgh with a bin strike here last year as well, so we're well aware of the issues. So I'd like everybody to give a big welcome to one of the striking workers, Danny Taylor.
Good evening, comrades. So, before I start, I would just like to let you guys know that we had a ballot today to strike again to increase our 12 weeks protection. That came back with a 75% turnout and 90% in favour of a strike, which sends a clear message. That sends a clear message to Birmingham City Council that we will not stand by while they impose devastating austerity measures on frontline workers. So, my name is Danny Taylor and I'm a proud worker of Birmingham City Council for the past 25 years. I've also served as one of two workplace reps at Lifford Lane for the past 24 weeks. Let me begin by thanking you all for inviting me to speak today about the devastating austerity measures being forced on frontline workers like us under the guise of so-called modernisation. Birmingham City Council is calling this process a transformation of services, but since when did slashing wages by up to £10,000, increasing workload count as progress? That's not modernisation, it's an attack, a cold, calculated assault on working people, and we won't stand for it. Back in 2017, we stood strong and won a High Court order that brought an end to previous disputes. That order guaranteed no more cuts. Yet again, here we are under attack while still carrying the scars from previous battles. Let's not forget who kept the city running during COVID-19 pandemic. It was us, the frontline bin workers. While others worked safely from home, we were out on the streets, risking our health and the health of our families to keep Birmingham clean and safe. Now fast forward to 2024 and the cuts keep coming. We lost our night shift allowance between £1,000 and £2,000 per year. We agreed to fortnightly bin collections. And last August, a sham consultation began, paving the way for the removal of the Grade 3 worker roll, costing workers up to £8,000 each. This was a safety critical role on the back of a wagon and not just a job title. The so-called options that were given: voluntary redundancies to divide us, lateral moves, downgrading with 6 months pay protection, or a path to HGV training promising a grade 4 role grade. Bear with me. I took that path and passed my HGV2 training and became a Class 2 driver, believing I was moving forward, only to be told 2 weeks later after I passed that drivers would now be downgraded to a Grade 3. Betrayed, lied to, that's how I and many of my colleagues feel. In December, we balloted for industrial action. Most of us were new reps. Our experienced colleagues had taken VR. I'll never forget our first meeting with senior management, Robert Edmondson and Katie Fox. They basically sneered at us and said good luck with them in reference to us being new reps. But guess what? Our ballot passed, and just in time for the Christmas clear-up. The council offered a measly £1,000 and 6 months pay protection. Our members flat out rejected it. The council's response: bring in agency staff illegally. Under Regulation 7 of the Employment Agency Act, you cannot use agency workers to replace striking workers. Yet as of Thursday, June the 5th, around 55% of workers in the depots are now agency staff. We started with one-day strikes and work to rule. The council ignored us. We escalated to 3 half days and still no movement. Then we received a partial performance notice pushing us to 3 full-day strikes within a week, and there was still no movement, so we went to an all-out strike. And still no more meaningful talks. Instead of coming to the table, Birmingham City Council spent public money on private security, CCTV and West Midlands Police, costing £11,000 a day to monitor and intimidate the picket lines. The police brought in Section 14 restrictions, and the council spent public money on metal barriers. We were forced behind them and told we'd be arrested for walking wagons out, treating us like criminals. Only after, when 26,000 tonnes of waste piled up across the city, did Birmingham City Council want to engage with us. And they're desperately asking, what can be done to get this resolved? But no sooner as they reached out, they went quiet again, as the rubbish was fast being collected from across the city and the pressure was no longer upon them. All we've ever asked for is to keep what we've earned. That is it. We're not demanding more, we're demanding fairness. Let's be clear, this is not modernisation. This is a coordinated attack on working people, and if they get away with this in Birmingham, other councils will follow. Birmingham City Council is the test run for a nationwide race to the bottom, and it won't stop with us. Every single lateral mover, every council employee will face the same treatment. They just don't know it yet. We're not against change, but we are against a future where frontline workers are pushed into poverty, overwork and zero job security. And also, what kind of future will be left for our future generations who wish to take up their jobs in the sector? We recently found out drivers promised protection are now facing the same downgrades and losses of up to £10,000. More broken promises, more lies, and all while senior management get promotions and pay rises. We've had no meeting with council leader John Cotton, no accountability, and still worse, when Angela Rayner came to Birmingham, she didn't visit one picket line. Instead, she went round every depot, met with the agency workers and congratulated them on a job well done. That's not solidarity, that's betrayal. The next question we must ask is, who are we actually negotiating with? We've put forward our strongest negotiators, Sharon Graham, Onay and Anne-Marie, committed, experienced representatives fighting for what's right. Meanwhile, we're having to negotiate with the council intermediaries, puppets essentially, who have no real authority and must defer to government-appointed commissioners. These commissioners were brought in to balance the books after the council's financial collapse, but their presence only dilutes any agreement we try to reach. And let's not forget, They're costing Birmingham taxpayers £2,000 per day per commissioner. Apparently, there's money for them, but not for the frontline workers who actually keep the city running. We've all seen the consequences firsthand: rubbish piling up in the streets, public services stretched to the limit. It's clear who's being valued and who's being ignored. But through all this, we've seen some powerful solidarity across the UK from different unions, communities. Support has flooded in from mega pickets outside the council house and protests outside the council house. We've stood tall, and that support has lifted us because we know we're not just fighting for ourselves. The council has now taken us to the High Court and imposed an injunction on us to prevent us from disrupting their operations. But let's be clear, disruption is exactly what strike is meant to do. The power the workers have when they withdraw their labour. This court injunction should set alarm bells off for other unions and striking workers across the country. It's a dangerous precedent, one that can be used to shut down picket lines altogether. This is yet another tactic from the government's playbook to weaken strikes and silence our workers. Its purpose is simple: to demoralise those on strike, to make people feel powerless and isolated on the picket lines, just as many of our members are feeling right now. They're issuing intimidating VR letters with fake deadlines, hoping to bully drivers into leaving without proper financial advice or time to talk to their families. These are tactics designed to scare and weaken us, and we see through them. And we see through them. And the reason the senior management gave for the issuing of the VRs was we are unwilling to accept modernisation to the service. This isn't just about being workers anymore. This is a fight for every council worker in the UK, because if we fall, the dominoes will fall everywhere. So here's a message we're sending today. We will not back down. We will not be broken. We stand united and we will win. To unite the union, to trade union communities and everyone that stood by us, thank you. To Strike Map, who've helped power our mega pickets, thank you. To every single worker, rep and supporter across the UK and beyond, thank you. Because make no mistake, a win for us is a win for everyone. Solidarity.
Neoliberalism has not delivered on what it promised. Okay, and the other key lesson we can learn from neoliberalism is that the way that the impossible became the inevitable. That's what's interesting about capitalist realism. That the capitalist realism, this is the only realistic model is this neoliberal model. It certainly was not realistic in the 50s or indeed the 70s. You know, it was a ludicrous. If you'd have said to people in the streets in the UK in the 70s, well, in 10 years the miners will be defeated, you know, there'll be, coal, you know, steel, telecoms, all of that will be denationalised. It just sounded like a ludicrous scenario which no one would have believed. Yet it happened.
Okay. Are we with us? Good morning, Dave Swift. We're still here. Sounds grim for these guys. Yeah, and but well done to Danny Taylor there. A great speaker. So that was a wee excerpt from last night's James Connolly celebration. It was the 39th of the James Connolly Society. I was very honoured. I got to lay a wreath. I was very privileged to do that. Kevin Gore, great artist, singing Freedom Fighter at the start there, and hopefully the Connolly Society will get the rest of the highlights from the evening uploaded to internet, onto internet. And But it was great, you know, the whole of the Cowgate was packed. The stewards kept the traffic moving and the pedestrians safe. And it was just a really good turnout, you know, so well done. And respect to the great man James Connolly himself, whose observations on all things power and its hierarchies continues to be ever as relevant as ever. Let's have a look at the X-sphere. Benny followed you. Who's Benny? Celtic, Republican and anti-fascist Free Palestine. I'll follow you back then, Benny. It's been. We'll get to the Scottish. This guy Wing, he's a bit upset, eh? Christ Almighty, eh? Ad hominem attack. Isn't that what you come at me at this morning? The Bitcoin masturbator. Fuck me. Right. Anyway, this is the joys of social media, isn't it? Let me know. This is another Leoski background mix. Seeing Tam get pulled up for his delusional nonsense used to be a cornerstone of Bella through the years. Sadly, no more. I was a bit annoyed about this. I had left a scarbarous comment on Bella Caledonia, and Mike decided not to print it, not to publish it, which I thought was pretty censorious, really. Not really the sort of free, open type of exchanges that we would expect from our liberal intelligentsia. So what was that all about, like, you know? Tamdene Bunn left like a right sweetie wife. Tamdene Bunn's like Scotland's most famous superist, like, you know, an establishment sycophant who likes to performatively paint himself as some kind of dyed in the red communist, like, you know. But he'll be down there with Fiona Hislop. He'll be sandwiched in between Fiona Hislop and Angus Robertson with Tuchter Dingle, like the rest of them. Anyway, onwards and upwards. So what happened? What happened in Hamilton, I hear you say? Was it what we expected? Well, it wasn't what anybody expected, was it? Oh look, there he is. What's happened? There's see the Wings guy, right? Obviously he's a fanny, right? And he likes to try to play this game like, oh, he's really into pot. He's just a total fanny. But a friend of mine was asking me about this guy, because he's like a normal person. Most normal people don't know who any of these people are. It's only weirdos like me and other folk that populate the internet. And it struck me who it was. It suddenly struck me who it was that who he actually is. He's the living embodiment of the boy Ignatius Riley from Confederacy of Dunces. That's who Stuart Campbell is. A fat, slovenly, delusional, hyper-delusional, eccentric freak, like, you know. And so, in some way, I don't know whether that's, you know, I don't know if anybody would ever want to aspire to be Ignatius. Was it Ignatius P. Riley? But if you've ever read that book, basically that is who Stuart Campbell is. It struck me. So there you go. I'll just share that with you. Right, so let's see what happened in Hamilton. Here's the national... What's this? We've got a few things happening, haven't we? Like, Musk said that... Musk had a pop at Trump, right? And... oh, wait a minute. Has Farquharson still got me blocked? Oh, he's unblocked me. Is this the same Kenny Farquharson? Well, what's happened here? What we are witnessing is the death of Scottish exceptionalism. Yeah, Freddie's correct. Freddie's correct about that, actually. This is all about legacy media. The situation in Hamilton. So what can we really say? Like, this is a massive gain for Farage, right? So it's a huge result for reform. It has to be said. It's Has anybody got any contributions on this? Stop by Jan, what a tune. Primavera. Shall we just take it? You know, like, something that annoys me, I fucking hate Apple, honestly. Why? They always fuck with everything, eh?
Lieve da solo, se non si è accorto con uno di già, a gente che attuata se ne fotte niente, ma non è come tutto sta male, rientriamo lui, tiene la me, per chi non si fa male di essere nasa a me, e si virta facendo su un guai e mo, e allora che ci fa,
The winner was a flute, a flautist. The winner was a flautist. The winner was it was the Labour guy that previously couldn't string a sentence together, right? I'm one to talk, but it was the Labour guy that couldn't answer any questions and didn't turn up to any hustings and basically didn't do anything, right? And then they trounced the SNP. I wish that.
Primavera, primavera, primavera.
So now the press are all that it is, right? They don't know what's going on. It was Soonest what won it, right? So this is disaster for the SNP. Surely this has got to be the main take. I like this. This is about X, isn't it? It's all about X. This is why we're on What the X. We're on the definitive platform. This is the definitive broadcast for What the X, right? Hooked on classics. Have you been to Larkhall? Where's the one where the Where's the one with the Mary Magdalene thing and that? Where's that again? I went there. Where's that place? I forgot where that is. God, that's what happens to you. You just start losing your marbles, eh? Let's see. Shall we see what Sarwar's got to say? In fact, let's have a look at STV News. What have they been? This was the moment. Craig McKenzie has come in with the definitive statement, which is totally correct. Basically, I think that the margins kind of show that they, SNP, Labour, Reform, are all utterly failing to convince folk that they are different from each other, which they are not. Exactly. This is the ultimate. I tell you what, actually, Mark Wilkinson, my old buddy, my old pal Mark Wilkinson, he got 100 votes, which is pretty good. So well done to Mark. He probably spent about 100 grand trying to get those 100 votes, but still. Oh my God, look at them. Let's have a look at them, shall we? Hold on a wee second, I'll pause this. Sit down, make yourself comfortable.
Years.
What do you put it down to?
Hard work.
You won't hear that. I need to let you hear that. I need to do something. But don't worry, I will do something. Right. If I do that, you should be able to hear him.
I mean, that's the bottom line, that it's...
Davy Russell, Scottish Labour Party, 8,559.
Look at them.
It was a result few had predicted.
It was a result
Labour defeating the SNP
predicted.
in a seat they had held for 14 years.
What do you put it down to?
Hard work. Hard work.
Hard work. It done fuck all.
Weeks ago, if you listen...
He's the guy that done the least, like, what you got fucking brass neck on him, like, you know? He never turned up. He never turned up for anything. He sat in his house fucking eating hobnobs. And he's like, aye, hard work, like, you know what I mean? That basically this was the collapse of the SNP vote is what won it, right? I think.
People respond.
What message do you think they send out for next year?
Nobody is more surprised about winning than him, like, you know what I mean? It's like, this was the last person in that room that thought he was going to win.
It tells them they'll need to change their tactics if they want to win.
They've not got any fucking
line.
There are no tactics, like, you know?
It's hard work and listening to people, and then it's up to me now to cover.
In the final weeks of the campaign,
that guy looks like you could put a tap, like you could screw a tap into his leg and just distill single malt out his calf, like, doesn't he? Like, you know, it's like he's like the ultimate.
It's claimed this was a two-horse race.
Ultimate Scottish whiskey face.
Who finished just 100 votes behind them in third. The result is a boost for Labour, which has seen its support drop in the polls.
You have got to listen to, yes, the result, but also the conversations we had on the doorsteps.
Right.
And the conversation...
I've heard enough of you, Sarwar, but don't want to hear anything else that you've got to say. The poison of the poison of reform. I mean, in fairness, like, I mean, what is the difference? There's no difference, really. Farage says that he was going to continue to, like, you know, well, and hypothetically, he was right behind Israel. What makes that any different from these parasites, you know? What's amazing to me is that people vote at all, you know, when this is what's on offer for them. I think that's quite an interesting thing that we should wonder about the state of our general psychological state of the nation. Let me just clear this 2 seconds. I'll bring back the Sonics.
Looking evil. Am I looking evil? You just say that all the time.
Johnny Reid at the front screaming there. Took 15 guide from Lubna, right? Another Zionist-funded mofo. Simon Dixon on YouTube has put together the most cogent theory I have heard as to what is going on in the world and the UK. Well, I don't ken who Simon Dixon is. So what is Simon Dixon saying? Who is this Simon Dixon? What enlightening information is he bringing to us? Oh man, I tell you what, right? I don't like any of these people, but seeing Scottish Labourites all smugified as a result of this, I mean, I don't know. I guess it's kind of funny because, like, nobody expected them to win. I thought the SNP would win it, but it's very funny. It's very funny to see that they've not. And I like how they all go straight into congratulations station, don't they? They basically, what's Gavin saying? So Reform were defeated in Hamilton, but not massively, and that's worrying. What is also quite concerning, in my view, and perhaps this was a consequence of fear that Reform may have got in, but the actual support for the only Socialist Party running just wasn't there. Yeah, and that's true. But questions have to be raised about the SSP, you know, and you know that needs a sorry, distracted there by madness. Questions need to be asked about the SSP. Why is it that voters? Well, first of all, we've got to think about the fact that it's a low turnout, right? It's always going to be a relatively low turnout. In fact, it was probably a higher turnout because of the media activity and the furor and the kind of like the chaos that was manufactured by the media class and the political class on Hamilton. All of a sudden, Hamilton became this kind of place, like, you know. I'm not saying it wasn't a place before. I'm just saying over the past few weeks. So, but we know that the electorate are generally pretty apathetic anyway, rightfully so. But as this chap here said, Craig McKenzie said, the political class. Here's the thing about the political class, right? Everybody uses this term, the political class now. You see it as a kind of endemic term. If you go back, you wind back, you'll notice that I was a pioneer of insisting that this is how we describe the contemporary political class. You know, I'm not, obviously I didn't coin the term, but you know, it's been important to reinforce this idea by calling them all the political class, or the aspirant political class or otherwise. But something that's quite interesting is like you start to see these complete and utter no marks. Like I know people like her. You couldn't find a more representative idea of the political class than somebody like Joanna Cherry, for example. Total careerist, professional managerial careerist. Easy to say the right thing now and again to curry favour, you know what I mean? Never really throwing her hat too much in any particular ring. But people like Cherry, and then really banal commentators like Susan Dalgetty and stuff like that, they've all started to use this term, like the political class, which is kind of embarrassing. You know, you're kind of going that you're the political class, but they're trying to present themselves as other from that, which is just patently ridiculous. Gavin makes an important point. Gavin Bruce makes an important point here. Like, why he's gone on. I'll read. Maybe Gavin elaborates here. I see he's responded to himself. It's a thing that we often are forced to do in our atomised modernity. Of course. Hornboy says, I've heard Chomsky. Yeah, of course. This is what I'm saying. It's a term. It's an established thing, of course. But I'm just saying that you've started to see it become used in the mainstream. You're starting to see members of the political class talk about the political class, which is kind of hilarious, right? But this is an important thing because it shows. You'll notice Novara Media and all the rest of it, they started doing it. It became like a thing, I'd say about 3 years ago. It really started to be a thing where people cottoned on. It started going like, and all I'm saying is like, if you go back, you can find things. You can find me. I'm on record saying years ago, like call them the political class. Only refer to them as the political class. Look, I'm not fucking saying it was me that's made everybody say it, right? But I'm just saying I've made a point. It's a thing to insist to categorise them as such because it's how they should be categorised. Gavin continues. This tells us one of two things. One, the public don't see socialist parties as able to challenge the mainstream. I would question this point, but I'd not entirely disagree with it. Two, the public aren't interested in their ideas. Each of these conclusions are worrying in their own right. I'm under no illusions that identity politics, despite the fact it was mainstream parties often promoting it, has damaged the socialist cause. Micro issues were never going to benefit the class struggle. How could it? Socialism is, in my view, a dirty word in Scotland again. I don't agree with that. I think, let's just continue though. This is despite the fact that some people believe us to be some potential socialist republic. It's delusional. People will align with what affects them materially, this is often true, And in a country that still possesses a deep-rooted conservative individualism, the left need to work on that. This is obvious. This must be a critique of the left, though, of the bourgeois neoliberal left, right? Celebrating our differences is fine, but for the class conscious at least, this is all fine. But for the masses and those not always politically inclined, it doesn't work, particularly because it is a position too easily manipulated. Now, I've used Hamilton here as the example, but this is a widespread issue. It isn't a localised problem, but we see it across the board. There's a population of working class who feel underrepresented and are choosing extremes. That is extremes of the right. That it is extremes of the right is our failure. It's an uncomfortable truth, but the left have unconsciously made themselves irrelevant in politics. We need a return to class, real class struggle, an emphasis on economics that which bind us, from housing to wages to pensioners and children, visible material issues. A lot of people lost direction and allowed themselves to be weakened by the promise of socio-cultural utopia, It was never going to happen. Not when it was shaped by the ruling class itself. People unite on commonality. Differences divide. Back to class now, please. Well, yeah, I broadly agree with that, obviously, that class must have primacy, 100%. We must agree on that. Those of us who are interested in capital and what it does and its relative relationships. But some of what I think Gavin's maybe saying there is slightly, maybe not acknowledging that all of the media. Thank you very much, whoever has just donated to me there. All of this media narrative is shaped. This is why an interesting point about this is about the legacy media. So there's maybe a conversation there has to occur about, where are ideas formed and propagated, and where do people get their ideas from, for want of a better term. Wait a minute, let me quit this. So some of that I agree with, some of that I'm not I wouldn't be so quick to dismiss certain things. Also about when you talk about the left, the left is not the left, those who call themselves left are liberals, right? The people who are most ardently, publicly left and who's still bang on about ID poll and all sorts of stuff, they're liberals, okay? They're not really socialists, and they're not class-first socialists. And that's, I don't think Gavin would disagree. I don't think Gavin and I would disagree on an awful lot, to be honest, on these matters. But I think it's interesting. At least what we've got is there's going to be an explosion of reaction as a result of this particular by-election, and everybody's getting all frothy because we're heading to Holyrood. Aren't you excited? VHS repair. You can see how it happened. Farage asking his Scottish consultant, where is the one place in Scotland where I will be guaranteed a good bit of support? Lark call. And there's a lot of truth in that, like, let's be honest about that. Hun Central. So it was a Hun vote, right? Is that? It wasn't a hung vote, it was a Hun vote. Where are we here? I've got a whole bunch of... Morning to you, Macapella. Sky Blue, it's always a pleasure to see you, but as soon as somebody's a Bitcoin guy, I'm a little bit like, okay. Bitcoin's a Ponzi scheme for lucky bastards that got in early. Right? And it's like the blockchain is interesting, of course, and it would be useful for things like voting and whatnot, but Bitcoin. I mean, I'll not refuse any. Anybody wants to give me any Bitcoin, I will happily accept. Dave Swift first heard it here, the political class. This is true, Sky Blue. This is true. That's the game that we're up against. That's the game. This is what Monsieur Fisher was pointing out, that capitalist realism, neoliberalism is. This is what, you know, it's an important point, Sky Blue, what you make there about that, you know. The entire neoliberal project is a project of consciousness suppression. And fundamentally, thank you very much, fundamentally, it is a project, fundamentally, it is a project designed to suppress class consciousness. Now that should tell you why class consciousness, listen, I must have said this a million times. And this is where exactly what Gavin's saying, okay? Exactly the same thing, right? That's why there was a few hundred people down in the Cowgate last night to go and celebrate the life of James Connolly. Because there is only one weapon, right, that can challenge capital, and that is class. And that is why and fundamentally the weapon in that respect is class consciousness. Okay? So it makes perfect sense that this advanced stage of hypercapitalism, of uber exploitation, of oppression, of you know, what is happening in Gaza. Capitalism is going to kill you in one of two ways, right? It's going to work you to the bone for shit wages over the course of your life until it's no longer able to extricate anything else out. Get anything out of you. My head's away with it this morning. It's going to work you to the bone. Or in the case of Gaza, it's going to liquidate you like that because it wants the land and resources that you're currently an obstacle to. So you are only ever you are only ever useful to capital in the way that capital sees you useful to it. So the only thing that threatens capital is class consciousness, and that's why that's why the ruling class and the capitalist class have historically and generationally figured it out. Like they have to eliminate and suppress any threat, no matter how small. That's why right wingers or whatnot will literally remove anti-capitalist literature from education sources or what have you. Such is the threat. People talk about the Communist Manifesto or Marxism and all this kind of stuff. You know, these continue to be these ideologies continue to threaten the capitalist system, and that's why they're so opposed to them. That's why they're always seeking to undermine and to ridicule and spread. And that's why IDPO becomes a problem, because it murkies the waters and it pollutes everything and it makes everything a bit like people can't really get their head around that. It's perfect. And I feel sorry for well-meaning youngsters as well who think that their Marxism and IDPO are compatible, and you know they're dupe servants of the ruling class, really, in my opinion. And they ought to have a word with themselves at this point now, you know. But whether that will happen, we'd need a decent newspaper written by real journalists. Does anybody read anymore? Can anyone read anymore? Can anyone read it? Tricky to run against omnipotent space, being such as a queue. He may snap fingers and turn into a mariachi band. Excuse this white noise. We'll sort it out. Real journalists. Right. We'll continue with our analysis. Our political parties are just organisations, right? They're just essentially they're sort of quasi-corporate entities, and they're just looking to get their mitts on the public purse, whether they're in opposition, whether they're in power. I mean, they're only interested in electoral power. Mark Hanna, it was good to see Mark Hanna. Mark Hanna has his play is great. He's a great actor, Mark Hanna. Mark Hanna's a real star, you know. He's a brilliant character actor, and he has his play that he's done over the last few years. He's developed it further again, and he's bringing it back this year. I think for the last time that he'll be doing it, and it's going to be at the Scottish Storytelling Centre. Ewan Gibbs. Reform polling 7,000 votes and a quarter of the vote in a Scottish parliamentary by-election is a landmark result. Unfortunately, the far right are now contenders in 3-horse races in constituencies across Scotland. Katrina Grant, I don't think people understand what this is. I was in the SSP, and I know how hard we had to work to get 6 seats. It was monumental at the time. I think we won every single vote. This isn't what is happening for reform. This is an electoral hijack. It's discontent. I think that's correct of Katrina. We know that as well, but people have been making this point this morning here as well, you know, that it was the Huns. There is a bit of that, right? There's also like there's people that vote SNP, people that are like independent supporters probably voted reform just to annoy the SNP because they're so disillusioned and disgusted by what the SNP have become. So there's probably a bit of that going on within that reform thing as well. But I think that's the key point. Is like back to what Gavin was kind of making that point as well, and also about this question of class consciousness and class, right? When you look at what happened with the SSP, I mean, I think it was maybe Katrina that I was talking about this to maybe a couple of weeks ago. If you think about what happened with the SSP, right, when we got our Scottish Parliament, I remember when the Scottish Parliament arrived, and I remember like literally within the first few weeks or something, one of the first things that they were talking about was like something to do with sheep or something. Like you couldn't write it. It was like it's always been a parochial place, right, of really lame politics, often. But you know, it was like it was our parliament or whatever. But I remember even back in the day, as a scabrous sort of like dismissive youth, as much as I was like I voted for the SSP, obviously, you know. But I remember kind of like laughing at the state of the parliament and going like, check the neck of this, like, you know, it was like fucking it was always a bit like whatever. But the SSP were there, right, in the Scottish Parliament, you know. We had a cohort of socialists, and many of those policies that the SNP have egoically traded on still, like whether, you know, free prescriptions, all that kind of stuff, like they were SSP policies that the SNP took on. And one of the things I think is interesting is that Sheridan was obviously a bit of a teapot, right? And he had like an insatiable thirst for flange, right? You know what I mean? So he went down to the Swingers Club and everything, and then he lied about it. And he totally, like, basically Tommy Sheridan destroyed the SSP in many ways. I mean, I think maybe somebody should, I mean, why has there never been has there ever been a really good documentary or insight into what actually happened? But here's the key point. It's like, whatever Sheridan did or didn't do, or however much he fucked it, and let's be honest, he did fuck it in every fucking sense, right? Sheridan was also, his downfall and the implosion of the SSP was very much in the interests of the rest of the political class and the establishment. There was a massive desire. Like, that was a big deal. Like 6 socialists in a parliament in Scotland. Like this was obviously a massive threat to the establishment. And maybe at the time, when everybody was caught up in the kind of soap opera drama of it all, maybe people weren't really thinking about, like, why is the state so, why, or when you say the state, actually what you mean is like the Murdoch press and all this stuff, like why are they so determined? What is this, like, this outrage and kind of like, you know, and at the end of the day now, right, it's like no one would give a fuck if fucking what anybody was doing sexually. Do you know what I mean? It's like, that was the thing I noticed on that thing that Craig McKenzie says, yeah, this is a good one, Raj one. Swinney is to independence what Starmer is to socialism. What's Gregor saying? Went to Athens of the North at the Hibs Club last year. It was excellent. Yeah, it's great. He's a great actor. Is Mark Hanna. Quite right, Gregor. What do you mean? I get that class is ultimately everything. It's more than that. Thank you very much. It's more than everything. It is everything. I spend a lot of energy punching up with regard to disability rights and benefits. I feel conflicted, but it's easy to lose focus back into a corner. It's important to recognise that class is not it's the only thing, right? It's like and that's why the establishment, the media class, will do everything in its power to disrupt and to undermine and to categorise and carve up and atomise. Excuse me. Everything to do with the working class. Sheridan should not have told lies. We were a threat. I think we knew that at the time. It was Sheridan that invited the state in. Sheridan would just be queer nowadays. Well, there's a nouveau spin Is there anybody? I've not checked my. I've got a raft of comments on X that I never. Carfin, yeah, I've got Carfin Grotto. That's what George. Thank you, George Patterson. The Ouija paper has arrived for the what's going on here? The Revenge of the Ghost of Bob Gillespie. Reform aren't far right. Just ask someone who is far right. They will laugh at you. Yeah, there's truth in that as well. This is important when Nigel Smith makes a point there about reform and far right. It's important not to allow these media. It's like they are more far. They're more right. Okay, it's like yeah, they're right, but Farage is just another. But they're all right. Okay, they're all supporting Zionism. They're all supporting imperialism. They're all. Sophie wrote a great article for Contour. I think Matty Ross mentioned that. I'll go back and retweet it. Okay, Macapella says spot on from Lloyd Quinnan. Let's listen to what Lloyd was saying. See, if people keep donating, right, I'll not have to keep going back and restarting this trial bit of software so that I can listen to what happens here, so that I'll be able to buy it, right? So there's an incentive. If you want What the X to be more efficient, you have to pay for it. That's just the facts, boys and girls. I'm using this trial thing. This piece of software costs £160, right? So if we can get £160 in my fighting fund, I'll buy this piece of software. Until then, I have to keep restarting it. Right, let's see what Lloyd says.
Contricks on us as a people.
Let's see.
So many of our middle class will not accept the concept of colonisation or that we are a colony because it might mean that other people won't like them. The central problem with the Scottish bourgeoisie is they want the establishment, and particularly the English establishment, to admire and like them.
Yes.
Give them a pat on the head. You're one of them.
That is a factor of all contemporary culture. Lloyd's absolutely correct about that. And the place that you find that, I know Lloyd is probably talking about a slightly different issue here, but the place that you find that most obvious is in the arts, right? And those that populate the arts. I'll go into that in a later date.
And that's been the story for 300 years. And in some ways, those are the people that need to waken up. Because there's even people in the Yes movement who think in those terms, who think in British political terms and think in the British political structures.
Very true.
I have never come across anybody in a pro-independence movement anywhere in Europe or in the ones from the French colonies in the Pacific and in the Caribbean who sees France, for instance, in the same way as we see Britain. They recognise what France is doing to them and has been doing to them since their ships arrived in their harbours. The fact of the matter is they know they're exploited. One of the great contricks on us as a people is the fact that it has been kept from us, even by our own middle class and our own establishment. The simple fact that we are the cash cow for England. And now our language needs to change. And Alf's changing the language, and that is a good thing. For anybody who was watching any of the coverage of the Irish election last week, when they spoke to people in Belfast, did they talk about Britain? No. They don't talk about Britain, they talk about England. England wants this, England wants that. We need to get on that bus because that's the reality. And it's a reality the movement historically for 300 years has known, but our middle class have always buried that because they don't want to be embarrassed. In the same way as they change their they change their accents because they don't want to be embarrassed. That cringe factor does not exist in our working class. The people know that Scotland is exploited by its relationship with England through the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland. And what Alf is saying, and what we all need to start saying is, stop being embarrassed about telling the truth. England exploits Scotland. End of.
Right.
destroyed no.
So many of our
fair play. I think there's definitely, well, yeah, it's a fact, isn't it? There's definitely a lot of truth in that. What we have to be perhaps a little more honest about is how complicit our so-called independence supporting political class are in this entire ruse, in this pantomime, you know. I've said it before. I think this chap, the person behind this account, that maybe Scott News, this Scott News guy, I think he quoted something I'd said, which is, we're all on the same page with this. You know, it's like the SNP are the biggest obstacle to any genuinely problematic independence movement. When I say problematic, I mean problematic for the British state. The SNP are essentially just, you know, a British state party, really. You know, they're not interested in. They're there to quell dissent, and they do a pretty good job of it. What have we got in the bookmarks? Just been in Hamilton to do some flyering for Katie Loudon, is it? Let me, where's my pictures? Well, nae luck, Cameron. Ross Greer, what will the Green Party do about this? Here's Joanna Cherry, opportunistically trying to, like, you know, carve out a place for herself in this next landscape. There should be no place for people like Cherry and all the rest of it. These are just opportunists and careerists. They've done nothing. Katrina, no one reads newspapers anymore. I'm not going to quote you there, John McFadden. The SNP is the City of London. Right, hold on. I must say, I'm very impressed with the numbers this morning. It's a lovely sunny morning. We're running a wee bit over, but I'm going to hang about a wee bit longer, because I'm quite enjoying this. This was it. Davy Russell wins, and then Flynn. I wonder if did Flynn put pictures up? There he is, eh? Look at them, eh? Do you believe that smile? But the thing is, you know, it's like, is he actually smiling any less today? There was. I tell you about. Let's have a look here. This was last night. I was very honoured to. This was on the other side of the road. I was very honoured to lay a wreath last night. But I think if I go to... What I saw. Hold on a minute, I've quit that loop back. 1 second. Just give us a sec, eh? I need to bring this back. Here we go.
I remember when I was literally pulling up John Swinney and other SNP members, former and existing ministers, who very much were complicit in their silence, very much complicit in meeting with Israeli ambassadors, very much complicit in talking the talk but not walking the walk. And we've seen that more recently with the inquiry that Jeremy Corbyn put forward in terms of the proposal for it with regards to the UK's involvement in the genocide. Stephen Flynn, it's come to my attention that Stephen Flynn, who has on the outside superficially given a lot of words with regards to Gaza and Palestine, talked about a state of Palestine, talked about how disgusting collective punishment was, but when it comes down to it, very much was silent in the face of people pulling SNP up about Scottish enterprise grants being given to arms companies complicit in Gaza, yeah? So let me continue. Yeah, so during the SNP conference, there was a group of us who were outside for 3 days, literally chanting, amplifying the voices of Palestinians, calling for the resignation of Angus Robertson, yeah. We were calling for the resignation of Angus Robertson. We were calling for an apology. He walked right past us, not surprisingly. We obviously had words with him. But a number of other MPs who are so-called vocal on the Palestine issue walked past us. I literally called over Stephen Flynn to talk to us, and he just walked away, wanted to go and get his lunch, which is great. But obviously I called him out for that. I was literally like, he looked me right in the eye. I was like, come and talk to us about Palestine. He refused to do so. And there's Palestinians amongst us. They all chat shit. Anyway, Stephen Flynn did not sign that, did not put his name down on that proposal for an inquiry into the UK's complicity. And we all know why. We all know why. Fuck the SNP, fuck the UK government, fuck everyone who just talks and doesn't do anything. Walk the walk, walk the fucking walk. I remember when I...
Go on yourself, and she's absolutely correct. And this is something that obviously I've been saying. If you follow my online musings, in fact, Swinney and Flynn's appropriation of the Palestinian cause when it comes to electoral experience, for example, is particularly vulgar, and it shows the plasticity and superficiality of these individuals. It shows us. I'll come to what Mark's in there actually. It shows us that. And also in tune with what Gavin's saying, it's like what we need is a movement against the party political class. And somehow, look, how many people, what we've got, I don't know how many people, a lot of people, I will make a wee couple of statements, I'm always making it, right? If you watch What the X, if you like Discontent, support us. We're raising money for Discontent. We want to build a media platform here that does interesting stuff. I'm running in Ward 9, which is Fountain Bridge and Craig Locker. So if you know anybody in Fountain Bridge or Craig Locker, or you yourself are there, vote for me for the council. But we need a movement that rejects the party political class. And when we have no media, our media, we've got parasites like Angus Robertson have columns in our newspapers. Our media class are just complicit with the party political model, and it serves nobody any purpose. And ultimately, this is about a battle for humanity, really, because hyper-capitalism and neoliberalism is anti-humanity, and for those of us who are into humanity or into sort of not the base level of murder and hell that we're currently being served up, we have to resist in our own small ways. And like, candidate Fleet, that's a very good point. IFD Fleet. Ayub Khan, Shoka Adamata are winning as independents on this ticket. It can be done, but also I think that's specific to, and I completely concur with that. But it is relative to the areas I think that they were campaigning in. So that's so it's to do with demographics as well. So we have to think about how. But I think there's a sense increasingly that people are beginning to realise, yes, the political class have failed. But so long as people still vote, and they do still vote, clearly as they did in Hamilton last night, that's not doing us any favours either. They've essentially reinstated another member of a genocide complicit political party that cuts winter fuel benefits and penalises the disabled. So that that's no good either. Does the threat of reform or whatever it is, what's cajoled the masses in Hamilton to get behind the Labour dude, Davy Russell. Mark Hanna, a brilliant night in the Cowgate to celebrate the birth and the life of Edinburgh's own James Connolly. And plaudits the Connolly Society and of course Jim Slavin, whose talk afterwards in St Augustine's Hall about the failures of the state apparatus in our communities was fantastic. And it's true, it was fantastic. I'm going to take a quick break and I'm going to go to Jim when he was talking at the Connolly celebration last night in the Cowgate, and I'll be back again shortly as we head towards this morning's finish line. But I'll pop to Jim first.
In the last few weeks, people might have noticed in Edinburgh, the people who are from Edinburgh, there's been a lot of controversy in this area in particular about cuts to services, about cuts to social infrastructure, and about last week there was a scandal about corruption where council funded proxies are obviously involved in a lot of bad practices in the community. And the council's response this week is relevant to us because this week, after that was exposed and the council tried to cover it up last week, after that failed, this week they've been in touch with me to say that all these signs that they have in the area about Little Island and neither King nor Kaiser, that they aren't happy with them. They've been up for years. They aren't happy because there isn't planning permission, etc, etc. Now, let me just say, we've been over this with Edinburgh Council before, but let me be very clear with them and whoever they're speaking to who thinks this will be a successful strategy for them. The James Connolly Society will not be intimidated. We will not be bullied. We will not be silenced. James Connolly will be celebrated in the city's birth every single year. And just to reiterate the political point in that, when they target the Little Island, they didn't want Little Island mentioned because it doesn't fit in with our narrative of the city. But these are the same politicians and bureaucrats who want to lecture us about who we can vote for and what issues we can talk about. These are the same politicians who want to sneer at working class people, and we will not be told by them who we can celebrate, what we can talk about. And the history of the Irish in this city, the history of the Irish in this country has to be told whether the Scottish political class like it or not. And these are the same people who want to lecture us about racism and about the far right and working class communities. They didn't have to lecture us, because in the 1990s, the far right in this city were doing the bidding of the same Labour council in the city chambers when they tried to ban the Connolly March. They failed then and they'll fail again.
I'm still here. John Swinney, congratulations to Davy Russell on his election as MSP for Hamilton, Lark Hall and Stonehouse. Katie Loudon, SNP, fought a superb SNP campaign. She lost half your vote. We have made progress since the election last year, but not enough. We still have work to do and we will do it. Morning to you, Stephen K. DMT hype is impossible to believe until it is experienced. Hard to believe your body travelled to another dimension until you're the one waking up to machine elves saying they missed you. IYKYK. This was my philosophical moment for yesterday. Let's just have a listen.
Man.
Oh yeah, of course I would.
Allowing 1,000 penises into one vagina in 12 hours is disgusting.
But the more you talk about it, the more it turns me on.
Did fuck an old man.
Oh yeah, of course I would.
Would you fuck an old
men
man?
deserve sex. I mean, a wife might be dead. I don't
Their wife
discriminate
might
whether
be
you're
dead.
married 18 or 80. I'll take anybody.
I'll take anyone.
Out of the 1,000 men, there was a lot of barely legal boys.
Yeah.
Do you not have a problem with the fact
No.
that they're literally borderline underage?
No, because they're 18.
But they're still children.
Yeah, but they're 18.
Yeah, but they're 18-year-old
I'd
children.
happily take someone like on their 18th birthday. Like, no problem.
Happy birthday,
How
son.
old are they?
I've got you a
18,
fucking...
25. My nephew's 18.
a place in the queue to fuck Bonnie Blue.
Hopefully I'll find him in my queue one day. It's hard work being a slut. Like, I've earned the...
It's hard work being a slut. What does Ash Reagan think about this?
So do you condone cheating?
Yeah.
And if you had a daughter and she said, you know, Mummy, I want to be just like you.
Yeah.
And you'd be happy and you'd watch the daughter, just everyone.
Yeah. I will raise my daughter to be independent and to follow her dreams. If that is 1,000 people, I'll be there with supporting her the whole way. Like, I love the idea that I don't know who's going to be inside of me. There was times I was in doggy and I'd turn around and I would have no idea who's in the back of me. And I love that. That's disgusting.
Like, you're a pretty girl. You could have gone into modelling, you could have gone into acting, you could have been like an influencer.
It's also very hard to get into that.
But so is people.
Not
constantly.
really. Like, I love that and that's what I've got passion about.
If that's really your thing that you get off on, you just go and do it in private.
Why do I need to do it in private? I'm proud of it.
Yeah, but
it's
you
like
shouldn't
going,
be.
oh, I've done an amazing piece of art, but I should hide it away.
But it's not, because doing art and becoming a cum bucket is two completely different things.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I
I don't know.
proud.
I don't know about that. If you're getting money from Creative Scotland, then being a cum bucket and doing art are probably much the same thing, right? So, you know, I'm not sure they are.
When I'm disrespected by over 1,000 men, like, I have to remind them, spit on me, slap me, choke me, pull my hair, because they're too polite to me.
What you're doing is so damaging to women as a woman.
Oh, women
You're not
find
setting-
everything to complain about.
Not
They'll
really.
cry about anything and everything nowadays.
So your family support what you do?
Super supportive.
So they don't like you?
No, they're super supportive.
But they don't like you?
Sorry, should I sit here and cry that?
I don't
oh
want
my
you to
God,
cry.
I took 1,000
It's not.
guys.
It's not
Right.
about crying. You don't need to.
The white noise has got the better of us there. Basically what I was saying here, you know, I'm saying the culture is a perversion, the commodification of all things and of everything is the essence of hypercapitalism. Morality becomes abstract in a society administered by the merchants of death. This is something Tom McFadden, who is a poet, performer in Gutter Blood, Tom and I were chatting. Tom was making the point a few months ago, it's all porn in one way or another, you know, whether it's the genocide, it's this kind of like, it's this extremity. And I think that some young lassie that was like, you know, some pretty lassie that now wants to just, is happily being publicly thought of as, in her own words, a cum bucket. That's a statement for the debasement of our entire culture or the entire society. So when we have politicians who want to try to give us moral instruction whilst they are actually still facilitating it and complicit in a genocide, there's nothing that can come out. There's no sound that can be created in their larynx. There's no noise that could emit from their body that has any purpose or meaning, because it's just woven with hypocrisy. So there's I think that this the rise of this kind of public whore is quite interesting, and I think it's the debased celebrity that a culture profiting from genocide deserves, really. So Bonnie Blue is a reflection, is a cultural reflection of the debasement of our entire society and culture. So I think it's quite interesting. I think it's something worth I think it's I am. Are you going to the massacre on the 27th? Yes. Why is it not coming up? Of course I am. And for those that don't know, that's the Brian Jonestown massacre. My good friend Anton Newcombe is descending on the capital with his incredible, amazing musical banquet of the Brian Jonestown massacre, and also they will be supported by local favourites Scorpio Leisure, who, to my shame, I have not actually played a Scorpio Leisure track on What the X yet, but they've got a new video coming out next week. I bumped into Russell yesterday on Easter Road, and so I'll be looking forward to checking that. But yeah, so Brian Jonestown massacre at the Corn Exchange. Beldam Lascar. Right, this is another great mix by Leoski, or Leo Soki rather. So what have we got planned? Plans for the weekend? Well, Meadows Festival tomorrow, but also Craig, there's at the morning, at 11 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to go up to Jack Kane Centre. There's a trade union march as part of the Craig Miller Festival. Scorpio Leisure, indeed. IYK. And who is it, I hear you say, that I'll be going to see at the Meadows Festival? It's an interesting choice, although not one I'm going to complain about. But the Meadows Festival, it is a bit of a bourgeois bonanza these days, and back in the day they used to let the sound system there, and we used to go there with the sound system. But they banned us. What's David Jameson saying? But the Gyro Babies are playing at the Meadows Festival, so that's worth going along for. And I think they're there tomorrow. In fact, the Meadows Festival, after the Gyros are playing at, I think it's Stramash as well in the evening. So if you didn't see them at the Meadows Festival, and I think it's free as well. See, when I first set this up, I used to have a ducker. All right, yeah. Okay, so Meadows Festival. It's the Essential Collection. Yeah, start doing that again. And then Baron Porn Corny Pops or whatever said it annoyed him, so I took my ducker off. But I quite like it. When you got a ducker. What do you think? Right. Is the Meadows Festival decent? I stay next to it and have never bothered. I don't really know what to say about that, like, you know. How much trouble would it take you to walk onto the Meadows if you live next to it? Right, David Jameson, there should be more scrutiny of anti-reform messaging by flagging mainstream parties. It's not surprising that the SNP's by-election messaging boosted reform. It's 100% correct. Let's just be honest about this, right? The SNP are fucking useless, right? They're morons. John Swinney is a total and utter teapot. Stephen Flynn is an absolute fud. And I honestly think that the whole lot of them should just get hunted. But what we should replace them with is just people. But imagine how long it would take for that idea to cotton on, eh? How could it possibly happen? Gyro Babies on tomorrow at 5 p.m. There you go. Tombola to win. Yeah, tombola to win a cargo bike. Do you want to know what happens at the Meadows Festival these days, right? And it's the same as the Leaf Festival. Why, right? Why are there loads of stalls with political parties at the Meadows Festival and the Leaf Gala Day and that? Like, why don't you all just fuck off, right? And just let people have a good time. You can't do that, can you? Because there's people there, and that's an opportunity to pretend that you're relevant. He's only relevant. Right, it's been another wonderful Friday the 6th of June. A joyous morning. Oh, this was, I'll retweet this article. This is by Sophie Johnson. And it was a good article because it kind of, it illustrated what reform really are. Which is, they're not of any use. But try telling that to some cats. I'll retweet David's post there. I'm going to leave yous. It's been great having yous all. And I'm going to leave yous actually with a Gyro Babies track. It's from their album Dreams Are Mental, which is well worth getting. And this is Foggy Windows. I'll be back soon. I might even be back before Friday next week. Who knows? Pay attention. Keep your eyes peeled. Thanks for joining me. Keep supporting Discontent. Keep supporting What the X. It's all appreciated. Have a Barry day.
Abandoned with the ghost, the flashpoints lingering around like insects to a houseplant. Right dig shatters, left in tatters. The state of the estate agency for actors, a bummed out gate adjacent to the welcome mat. A grave at the back, aka former cat. Foggy windows with fingerprints on the carve out initials, but the temperature's wrong. Smoke rises from the chimney. No postcode here. It's a trick question. The hounds of hell, frothing and bleeding, phoning fragments of imagination, sold in segments on eggshells, thin line of the needle blizzards gather. Hailstone face, soaked to the skin, such a maniac phase. The trees don't freeze, cause they wear leaves as sleeves, and sneeze at the bus to get a bus with the beast. Smoke rises from the chimney. Smoke rises from the chimney.
desiring an idea is like a bait on a hook.
Yeah.
It can pull them in. And if you catch an idea that you love, that's a beautiful, beautiful day.